the regular scheduled March meeting of Alexander County Board of Commissioners in order. This time, I would like to call on Commissioner Larry Yoder to lead us in our invocation, followed by myself, who will be doing the pledge.
Let us pray. As we gather together tonight, we'd ask that the blessings be upon us. We'd ask that you'd look after our county, our state, our nation. Be with our military personnel, both at home and abroad. Be with our emergency personnel. We'd ask these blessings upon those leaders, that they will make the decisions that are needed in order that they can take care of the people. We ask all those things in thy name. Amen.
If you would, please. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have several special recognitions tonight, and I would like to start with recognition of Mr. David Huffman, and Russell Green will be presenting this recognition for us.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. It is my honor and privilege tonight to be able to introduce our new Alexander County Forest Ranger, Mr. David Huffman. David is married to Carmen Huffman and is co-owner of Carmen's Greenhouse. They have two children, Jacob, 11, and Sierra, 7. They live in the eastern part of Hidnite. They've been in Alexander County since 1990. David has served since 2007 as a volunteer with the Hidnite Fire Department. He's been taking basic wildland fire training. In 2016, he became our county smoke chaser, which is a 10-month position. They work to assist our forest ranger, and it's a part-time position. With, if y'all remember, Dennis Wallers, our county ranger, recently retired. It's taken us a few months, a little bit longer than some of us thought, to replace him, but I think we've got a great individual here in David. David's got extensive training with volunteers, and he's been deployed to western fires to Alaska, Idaho, New Mexico, twice to Montana. He was dispatched within the state for Hurricane Matthew to work different jobs. And the thing I like most is when you ask David's statement, and I'm going to quote, "I am a state of North Carolina employee, but I work for the folks of Alexander County." And I think that makes him fit right in. So, folks, I'll let you introduce Mr. David Huffman. David, tell us about what you do.
Good evening. How are y'all folks this evening?
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Russell, for the introduction. A little bit nervous. This is the first time I've ever been to one of these. I'm just an Alexander country guy. I'm Alexander County, was born and raised in Catawba County, but my wife is from this area. So like Russell said, I work for the state of North Carolina, but I serve the citizens of Alexander County. And so that's going to be my job, is to serve the citizens of Alexander County in fire protection and forestry management services. All of us remember the year of 2016 when it was very dry and it was quite scary for a lot of folks around. So one of my goals is to have all the fire departments, all the folks in Alexander County trained. We don't ever want to have one of those circumstances come up again. But if we do, I want my folks ready and trained to protect the citizens of Alexander County to the best of my ability. Any questions from y'all?
Thank you, sir. We really appreciate what you do, and that preparation and opportunity come together. You know, hopefully a lot of times there's a lot of things we prepare for we never see, but we're certainly glad to have a man of your caliber serving the great citizens of Alexander County.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
At this time, I'd like to recognize Chairman Ronnie Reese, who will be giving special recognition to Theresa Smith.
I've got something I'd like to read first. And I've known Theresa for a long time, and attend church where I go to, and she puts her heart into something when she does it. It says, Theresa has been a lifelong native of Alexander County, resides in the Wittenberg area with her husband of 46 years, Tommy Smith. She has 2 sons, TJ and Kevin. After a 17-year retail career, she decided she wanted to do something to make a difference. She felt she'd been given that opportunity when she accepted the job at DSS as a human resource aide in December of 1998. Her job titles changed several times, but 2 of the main duties stayed the same, and the duties were supervised visits between children that had come into foster care and their parents, and to teach foster and adoptive parent classes. She feels she had the best job at DSS. She had the opportunity not only to help children and their parents during a difficult situation, but to prepare people who were willing to open their homes by fostering until the child could return to their family. Sometimes the challenges were great, but so were the rewards. Nothing feels better than when a child comes running up to you in a store or a parent calls just to keep in touch to say thank you. You know, those rewards are immeasurable. And I thank Teresa for what she's done personally and for having the heart to do that. And I guess she'll be enjoying some things in her retirement, devoting more time to travel, church, gardening, and family. And Teresa, if you'll meet me over here at the podium. This plaque says the Alexander County Board of Commissioners hereby presents this key to the county to Teresa Smith in recognition of 20 years of dedicated service with Alexander County Department of Social Services, presented March the 11th, 2019.
Thank you.
And thank you, Teresa. Appreciate what you've done.
You sure will make you famous.
I'm shy. Thank you.
Ms. Smith, we certainly appreciate your dedicated service to our Department of Social Services, and I feel certain that over all those years, you certainly made a big impact in a lot of ways. Thank you for what you've done. This time, Commissioner Marty Pennell will have special recognition for Cheryl Millsaps.
I get to have the pleasure to recognize Cheryl. Cheryl Millsaps began working at Alexander County DSS February of 1985. And if I'm wrong in anything, correct me. She left in 1987 to gain experience and returned back in 1989. She has remained with Alexander County DSS through March the 1st of 2019. When she was hired, she was told by Miss Nan Campbell, always remember, in the blink of an eye, you can be on the other side of the desk. Always treat people the way you want to be treated. Cheryl has strived to live by those words, and she hopes over the years those who she served realize she gave her best. Cheryl wants all those who continue to work with our clientele will remember to treat everybody right. Cheryl is appreciative of the opportunity to serve in Alexander County residents. The poem below is a poem Miss Campbell frequently read to her staff and made sure we understand the meaning of the other side of the desk. So I'm going to read this poem. The other side of the desk. Have you ever thought just a wee little bit of how it would seem to be a misfit and how you would feel if you had to sit on the other side of the desk? Have you ever looked at the man who seemed a bum as he sat before you, nervous, dumb, and thought of the courage it took to come to the other side of the desk? Have you thought to yourself of his dreams that went astray, of the hard, real facts of his everyday, of the things in his life that makes him stay on the other side of the desk? Have you ever thought to yourself, it could be I instead of him? If the good things of life had passed me by, and maybe I'd bluster and maybe I'd lie from the other side of the desk. Did you make him feel he was full of greed? make him ashamed of his race or creed? Or did you reach out to him in his need to the other side of the desk? May God give us wisdom and lots of it, and much compassion and plenty of grit, so that we may be kinder to those who sit on the other side of the desk. And Cheryl, if you would accompany me to the podium. I'll read this aloud. The Alexander County Board of Commissioners hereby presents this key to the county upon Cheryl Millsaps in recognition of 32 years of dedicated service with the Alexander County Department of Social Services, presented March 11th, 2019. Thank you for your service. It's greatly appreciated. Would you like to say anything? You
Not
have the
really,
opportunity.
just thank you for this opportunity, and like I said, I hope that my being here has impacted somebody throughout the years, and thank you.
Ms. Millsaps, and I'm sure with that mindset, there's many people sitting on the other side of the desk that benefited and valued from your dedicated service for all those years. We thank you so much for what you've done. This time, we'll entertain any reports from commissioners.
I have one in regards to a meeting with the senior center last month. I just wanted, it was a very good meeting. Seems like our seniors are out full force. I think they had record-breaking attendance in the month of January, if I remember correctly. I do want to bring it in front of the commissioners that they do have a need that I would like to mention. And the need is the big room at the senior center. They would like for us to kind of investigate or look into possibly petitioning that off with a movable temporary petition that would fold into a closet on one end of the room. So I want to bring that up in front of y'all to make you guys aware for a further investigation on that.
Thank you. I'd like to announce that the Bethlehem branch of Friends of the Library will have their 9th annual book sale, March the 21st through the 24th at the Bethlehem Fire Department. All proceeds benefit the library, and members can go early from 9 to 12 on Thursday, and you can get a membership at the door, and it's open to the public on Friday from 9 to 6 and Saturday 9 to 2. So if you're interested in some books, please visit them. Also, at the Veterans Commission, they'll have their annual golf tournament this Saturday. Kind of interesting, the two-man Captain Choice team has two $10,000 hole-in-one on par threes. So quite a great opportunity if you play golf and want to support a good cause. That would be a nice thing to do. And we're also planning the current Memorial Day services coming up. It'll be on May the 26th, which is Sunday, at 3 p.m. on the courthouse lawn. And there will be some special honoring of World War II veterans. It's no big surprise. It's pretty easy to understand that World War II veterans are becoming fewer and fewer and fewer. So we've had some projects where we captured their stories on video. And then also here will be a special honoring of them at this Memorial Day. And the Veterans Commission, indirectly through the American Legion, sponsors American Legion Baseball, which does baseball, 2 baseball teams and a softball team. So they'll be getting kicked up here pretty soon too, and have the annual dinner fundraiser coming up on May the 10th. And not lastly, but almost lastly, County Manager Rick French and myself, along with Commissioners Ronnie Reese and Larry Yoder and Marty Pennell, we went to Washington for the NACO conference to be with people from all across the country who are engulfed in local government. So kind of neat thing to see, big or small, rich or poor, everybody has this kind of same issues, just different scale. So it was very nice to get to be around some people and brainstorm solutions and some things. And then we also were able to put some bugs in some congressional ears, especially about our broadband initiative, and with help on us doing that. As y'all know, the broadband initiative is real critical right now in a lot of ways for us at homes and for homework and for business development and just a lot of things. So we're really excited about where we're going to go with that. But while we were there, probably the most amazing thing that we were able to do was that we visited the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and had the opportunity to lay a wreath on behalf of Alexander County. And as you know, the tomb is guarded 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As a matter of fact, there's been a guard on that tomb every minute of every day since 1937. And we got to be part of a very, just very engaging, intense ceremony that hopefully added some dignity to some things, but we did it in honor of folks, the great folks in Alexander County. But so that was that part. And then lastly, Health Department has informed that we have now had 2 deaths in the county from the flu. So please, please, please wash your hands, practice good hygiene, cough in your elbow, all those things that you've been told since you was a little kid. Continue to do those because that is the best defense against the flu. And it can be devastating to some people, and as we have found out, up to even death for several. So that concludes my report. Anyone else have anything?
Well, I just like to say on our Washington D.C. trip, a lot of good information, and we got to see, a lot of people and other places and how things are done for them. But one big thing was, we made it up there and back safely, and, nobody got, hurt. I don't know if anybody else did. I never seen anyone marching, protesting, anything. It was pretty calm trip, and we got to see a whole lot of the, Capitol Hill, and it's amazing how the government works. And as Chairman Peel commented on the Arlington Cemetery, boy, it's really moving when you go there and you look and you see all of those graves, and that's how we have the freedom we got today, is from what they gave for us. So good trip and a lot of information.
Fortunately or unfortunately, it looks like everybody in Washington wants something. And in a lot of cases, the government begs and borrows and steals or does whatever and is able to give a lot of those things. But it's they get to practice some practices that we don't get to practice on a local level. But everybody has an agenda, and we certainly tried to exercise our agenda to bring us good. But any other reports? At this time, I would entertain a motion to adopt our agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as given.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? And all in favor of adopting the agenda, please raise your right hand. Motion passes. First line of business is public comment, to which we have none. Next business, we'd like to recognize Mr. Paul Tigg from the Western Piedmont Council of Governments, Community and Economic Project Developer, for our analysis of impediments to fair housing choice components.
Good evening, Commissioners, and it's my pleasure to come before you this evening regarding the study that we performed regarding the analysis of impediments to fair housing. I would say the very good news is there were no glaring examples that stood out. I would also like to commend Ms. Starnes, Ms. Feemster, and everyone from the Alexander County staff for helping us get some of the information we needed in order to put this together. A couple of things that did stand out, and it's covered in the first part of the executive summary, is that there were some higher concentrations of substandard housing and higher rates of housing burdens, and a general lack of knowledge to the fair housing law. One of the things that is we find it's endemic within rural communities, not only here, region-wide, even across the country, is a lack of new affordable housing inventory. There's just not as much construction taking place, new subdivisions in the rural areas. I recall seeing something in the Wall Street Journal a few months ago talking about how Nebraska is trying to deal with the same kind of thing, and some ideas that their legislature had. But in general, what we've tried to lay out is kind of a 3-year program that will try to improve people gaining knowledge about the Fair Housing Act law, and what we're going to be needing tonight would be an endorsement of what we have submitted, and the chairman will need to sign a page. I think it's on page 5. This is part of what goes on with the Housing and Urban Development funding regarding the Stony Point wastewater project. This will be kind of one of the last hurdles for us initially. We've spoken with Benji over at West Consultants. We are hoping that this will now get into the design phase, and then we can be able to put this out for bid in the next couple or 3 months. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about the study.
Everyone's had the opportunity to look through the study. Any questions there?
Is there anything that stood out in the study that surprised you?
I guess just you look at the last 10, 20 years, the few number of new housing units that have been built. And I guess a lot of that can just be attributed to the Great Recession that kicked in 2008, and there's just been a reluctance on the part of developers to come back in with new housing units. Another aspect of that is we're getting older, and the be it Alexander or Caldwell, Burke, Catawba, that median age continues to go up. I think the good news on this is this tends to run in cycles, and eventually it's going to get to be too prohibitive for developers to be into the bigger cities, and they're going to start wanting to come back. And people themselves are going to find it just too expensive. As I was coming in, I was hearing about Mecklenburg County home sales, and the average home price was something like $275,000. That's, you could build a heck of a house for that around here. So,
Which is interesting, because while we were in Washington, we see the signage for fair housing all over the place, but in several of the sessions that we were in, and several of the major speakers addressed the aspect of this very issue. And a lot of it, they felt like centered around excessive regulations that have built up over the years, and that sometimes we're real quick to add a regulation, but we're not real quick to take one off that we replace. So you end up with a whole bunch of red tape that you get your hands tied on. So from DC all the way down, it's an issue across the country.
I think I could probably be called an expert in that area.
Absolutely.
And the DC area, probably the median household or median sales price is, depending on your area there, but $1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, it's astronomical what you pay to live in DC. As far as, and I'm a builder and a developer, but as far as, being in that line of work in this area, a lot of it is federal regulations, that come down and flow through the banks that you may not even be aware of that affect how money is borrowed and capital is used. And, you know, the recession forced a lot of people out of the business, so there's a lot less people in construction in this area. The major metropolitan areas like Charlotte, they've got an influx of people coming in with major builders there. Many of them are publicly traded companies. They've got access to capital that your small builder doesn't. The federal government is passing laws right now that will, if they keep it up, will force the small builder out of business. And that's why there's no affordable housing now, because they can't build it and make money at it. So, you know, if you can't make a profit and you can't feed your family and pay your own bills, then nobody's gonna build that product.
We heard that same story
Yeah.
from senators and HUD and secretaries, and I mean, everybody knows it, but, you know, they need to
They
do
don't do
something
anything
about it.
So,
I'll just say, I've looked through it, just good report. Y'all always do a good job as far as even, you know, breaks down to the age of homes in the county and, you know, all of those things. So, good report. I appreciate your work on that.
Thank you.
Any others? All right, at this time, we'll entertain a motion to approve the analysis of impediments for fair housing choice components.
move to approve.
A second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Hope to come back again and say we've got a project ready for bid.
There you go. This time, we'd like to recognize Melissa Patton, Executive Director, Carolina Linden Lakes, to tell us, share with us a presentation.
And thank you for having me this evening. I'm sorry I've got a little laryngitis from the pollen issue going on outside. Carolina Linden Lakes is a 501c3 nonprofit that serves 7 counties. We are part of what is called the Resource Conservation and Development Councils across the nation. We once were under USDA, and then we lost federal funding in 2010, and we all became nonprofits if we chose to stay in business, and Carolina Linden Lakes did choose to stay in business. We serve Alexander, Burke, Caldwell, Catawba, Lincoln, Iredell, and Gaston counties, and with different programs. Our mission statement that you have before you is a little different. It's changing right now because we needed to better define our mission. That mission statement's a little too vague. What we really do is we are a bridge between our communities, our farmers, our small business owners, and the local, state, and federal agencies that they need assistance from. And so that's basically what we do and what we provide to those folks. An example of a project in Catawba County that we completed was a dam removal project, and we assisted the landowner and the town with that project. That dam was over 100 years old and was really an impediment in that stream, and we were able to find the funding to remove that and help that community. Another example of a project here is at Rocky Face. Excuse me, we received a grant from the Environmental Enhancement from the Department of Justice, and for its environmental protection grant. And we were able to fix the stormwater runoff issue that was happening out there. And we've offered our assistance to help with that project. You may remember that Carolina Linden Lakes worked with you. I don't know how many of you were on the county commissioners at that time, so you two remember that when we were donated that piece of property and we had to do something with it as a nonprofit, we did not particularly want to hold the property. So that's how the partnership with Alexander County came about. And we had 2 board members from Alexander County, Wendell Kirkham and David Eisenhower at that time. They both resigned and retired off our board in 2016, and they've been replaced with Lenny Rogers and with Kathy Bunton. And so we really appreciate their help and their advice on our board of directors. One of our other projects that we're helping all counties with, and including Alexander, is there's a grant program through the USDA called the Renewable Energy for America program, and it helps farmers and small businesses if they want to upgrade their energy cost or cut their energy cost in their businesses or on their farms. And so one of the ways that we do that is we help farmers that apply for those grant funds and then help them follow through with that whole process, or small businesses, whichever is the case. And then another project, and I'm trying to hurry because I told Jamie I'd keep it under 10 minutes, is a Pellets for Profit project, where we're helping poultry farmers by replacing their propane heat with wood pellet heat. We have 3 of these farms in Alexander County that we're working with right now, and we have a little video we'd like to show you about that project.
Y'all are all using the pellets right now, the wood pellets.
Just on these 2 houses, yeah.
Okay. What difference have the pellets made?
The biggest thing is when you're starting off with the pellets, it's dry heat. When you're burning propane, you're pumping humidity already, you're putting moisture in the house. So I can heat with less humidity, therefore I don't have to run as many fans to ventilate. I've heated both of these, and these are 45 by 500s. I've heated both of them with right at 8 tons of pellets, which cost me $1,000.
So you would say the pellets have been more energy efficient?
I think they are. They're not as easy to run as the propane heaters.
Okay.
I mean, the propane, you go in there and you flip your switches on automatic, and as long as they light, walk away from them. This thing right here, probably Friday, I'll shut it down completely. I'll have to clean the auger out, because if you don't, it'll draw dampness and it'll lock up. If you're not careful, you'll break an auger. And then you have to go in and do a complete clean down on the machine.
Would you say the propane is more expensive or the wood?
Propane.
Propane's more expensive.
So right now I'm locked in this year at $1.49.9, just want to say $1.50 a gallon. So 1,000 gallons is gonna cost $1,500. If I fill that tank up, it'll hold 8 tons. That's $1,000. And that right there holds 1,000 gallons, that's $1,500. And that, if it's getting into the 20s at night when we start preheating and the chickens first get here, it won't last a week.
Versus how long does the pellets last?
Well, I'm still on the 8 tons.
Propane is here to kick on anytime there would be a malfunction with the wood pellets or anything like that. The chickens are all protected.
When this thing's burning wide open, it's burning anywhere from 1,600 to 1,800 degrees. And even at the very end of the house, with the ductwork that's in there, at the very end of the house, it's still putting out air that's over 100 degrees. And the guys that bring the chickens out to us, they will actually put the upper 2 houses in first, because even though the temperatures are within a degree of being the same, those houses are hotter because the humidity just, you can't hardly catch your breath. And they've changed it on us this time. Instead of starting out at 90 or 92 like we normally do, they wanted us at 95 to get the sawdust hotter for the chickens to set on. The need for heat for the small chicks is not to make the air warm, it's to make the floor warm. They're still experimenting with the different types of chickens that we're raising, and they seem to think that they do better with a hotter floor. We've done a total clean out, washed the walls, the ceilings, the fans, cleaned the floor down to the bare dirt, and put in all new fresh dust. But when you put fresh dust in, most of the sawdust you get is green, and therefore it's automatically damp when you put it in the houses. So they argue that point that it needs to be hotter to help dry that out too, but I don't use regular sawdust, I use dry kill dust. It comes from a dry kill mill, so it's already dry when it gets here, but we still, instead of preheating 48 hours like they normally asked us to, we actually fired these heaters up and run them for 96 hours. We run 4 days before the chickens come. Usually with the humidity, with the real small chicks, it causes problems with the mortality. Just different things in the respiratory, those kind of things. And not only that, but if you get too much humidity in there, your floors will get damp. And if your floors get damp, they can pick up stuff from the floors that'll make them sick.
So what have you seen the difference in mortality in propane and wood heat?
Well, up there this morning, Daddy picked up 12 in one house, 14 in the other. This house right here, I think I picked up 5. We went in a year ago, changed all the feed pans. It's got the exact same feed system that the upper houses have got, and that house still will outweigh the other houses 1/4 pound or more. And you know, you're talking
25, 26,000 chickens, a quarter pound's a big difference. If the pellets become more readily available, I can see a lot more farmers wanting it because of the cost effectiveness and the fact that it does keep your houses drier. And if they can't get pellets, the hardest thing, and it's easy for me, but the hardest thing for most of these farmers is getting the pellets in here and getting them in the bins.
Propane is delivered, to the farm with the truck. They just tell them how much to come out what day. Pellets, either our farmers are having to go to the pellet plant and pick them up or arrange some type of delivery service. It's not an automatic thing. And so we're trying, at Carolina Linden Lakes, we're trying to address that issue and assist the farmers with that, with the pellet mill in Statesville and with the pellet mill in Galax, Virginia. Those are the two closest.
When the chickens go out, we have to windrow our floors. We've got a machine and it chews it up, slides it to the side. We've got 4 windrows in there. It's about that high. And what it does, it makes it go through a heat stage. It's supposed to kill all the bacteria that's in the litter. When the houses with the wood heater, the floors are twice as dry as the 2 houses up there because of the lack of the moisture. Makes it a whole lot easier to do. It actually makes it faster to do.
So this flock cycle, you have spent approximately $5,000 in propane for 2 houses.
242 by 500s.
And you have 45 by 500 2 houses wood heated, and it cost $1,000 to do that.
$1,120.
Wow. The savings just in the fuel cost alone is significant enough to want to use this type of heat.
Yeah.
Not counting the mortality dollar figure that would be on the mortality and on the bird weight, correct?
Right. You can talk to anybody and they'll tell you the secret to raising chickens is food, water, and air quality. The air's got to be right for the birds it's about like us, if it's 100 degrees outside, you don't want to go out and play basketball. If it's 3 degrees outside with snow on the ground, you don't want to go outside and have a snowball fight, there can be snow on the ground and temperature's right, you want to go out and play with it. Same thing about being out. Well, chickens is the same way. These 2 houses, just even before we changed the feed lines, these birds were just, they were healthier birds. They grew off better. They weighed more.
I don't know how many of you are chicken farmers, but it's a very significant project in North Carolina right now because we are the 3rd largest poultry producer in the nation, and Alexander County is really high on the list in the state. I don't know where you're ranking right now. You stay within the top 5 typically of poultry houses and poultry production. So it's a very, very significant project that North Carolina Department of Agriculture is funding right now for us to collect this data in North Carolina. I'm going to skip that slide and skip that one because we've already covered that. We do some STEM work with the folks down at STEM West out of the COG. Carol Moore is heading that up. We try to help students understand the benefits of alternative energy. And we can skip on to the next one. We've helped get some state funding down to Mountain Island Educational State Forest so they can build a education building for the public to come in and see. For public use. And then we also have a project, I think it's on the next slide, for Firewise USA. We worked with Dennis before he left. We made a presentation at some fire departments here. What we're doing is trying to help homeowners and landowners understand how to protect themselves from wildland fire. Because of the fires in 2016, the U.S. Forest Service has funded some of our nonprofits to go out and educate folks on protecting their homes. And so that's what we are trying to do here and in our other counties that we serve. Thank you for letting us come out, and Jamie's got my information, so if anyone needs to get in touch with me, you can. Do you have any questions about anything we do?
Several years ago, I attended a wood pellet conference or something that y'all had put together. And at that point in time, most of the pellets were being shipped to Wilmington and were going to China. Has that trend been reversed, or is there more of a demand now locally for the wood pellet products?
We are building that demand. The Godfrey brothers opened a pellet plant a year ago in Statesville, but for our farmers here in Alexander and in Wilkes, it's actually easier for them to get pellets out of Galax, Virginia. That's a hardwood flooring company. They don't ship anything overseas. They keep it all here. And that's the goal of Carolina Linden Lakes, is to make pellets out of waste wood that is used here. It's a closed loop system. We just use them here. But there is a big operation in the east. It's called Enviva, and they ship everything to Europe to meet the European demand for alternative heat.
I may be asking a question that you can't answer or is too in-depth to answer right now, but I don't know how long ago this was. It was at least 10 years ago. There was a company looking at locating here in some other counties and burning the chicken litter when the houses are cleaned out. So has anyone looked at, I mean, why don't you just build a burner on site to burn the chicken litter on site and power the houses?
They've looked at pelletizing chicken litter. NC State has done a research about that, and Lenny may know who's doing that at NC State, but we've talked to, I think Dr. Jesse Grimes is the most recent person I talked to about that. Right now, it is still more economical for a farmer to use his litter as fertilizer than it is to pelletize it and use it for heat.
Okay.
So that's where the economics comes into play, is that they've done that and they've looked at that. This farmer in particular that did the video, he keeps wanting it to get to that point where he can pelletize on his farm and just reuse it there.
Okay. All right, thanks.
That was a very interesting process that he was talking about. And the company actually came here, was looking to locate here and to reprocess the chicken litter.
Yes.
And to do that, and it took a lot of cleaning and a lot of different things going on. And I think they ended up maybe going, I don't remember where they went to, but anyway, it's a very expensive process, I think. But I appreciate what you're doing, what you're doing here. It's very interesting, and I like to see our farmers get every opportunity they can, get the
Yes.
most advanced technology so they can make more money and produce more product at less cost to
Right.
them and using the land better. I mean,
Yes.
to get the things they need. Very good job, and we really appreciate Rocky Face. Thank you. Yes, good job. I enjoyed working on that project.
You're
Good job.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. This time I'll call on County Manager Rick French, who's going to share with us a resolution for a public hearing on proposed financing agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packets, you have a resolution calling for the public hearing for proposed financing of the Alexander County Services Center. The amount that we're talking about financing is $2 million. It would be basically be reimbursing the county for expenditures previously made. And at this time, the first step would be to schedule that public hearing for April the 1st. And I'll be glad to try to answer any questions you might have, or any of the members of commissioners might have.
So this would just be,
Reimbursement.
well, no, what I'm saying is, this would just be calling for a public hearing, that we would investigate financing, and we don't have to.
That's right.
We're not,
That's right.
set on financing it yet.
That's right.
Okay.
Entertain a motion to approve investigating financing through a public hearing on April the, what?
First.
April 1st.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes. Next, Mr. French will share with us a consideration to adopt a historic preservation ordinance for Alexander County.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packets, you have a copy of a recommended Alexander County Historic Preservation Ordinance, and you have some other information. The staff is requesting tonight is that you adopt a preservation ordinance. You reactivate the 5-member volunteer historic committee established in 2008 as a preservation commission to implement a countywide preservation program, that you identify and inventory historic resources in Alexander County, and that we also submit an application to its SHPO, which is the State Historic Preservation Office, to become a CLG, which is a certified local government, following 1 year of historic committee preservation commission activity. what this will do for us by adopting this countywide preservation ordinance will position us so that we'll be able to apply for grant funding that's not currently available. Plus, private citizens would be eligible to apply for historic preservation tax credits on qualifying projects. In your packet, we've identified several, certainly not all of them. There's a number of them in the county. For example, the AME Feed Service in Taylorsville, the Smithy Building in Taylorsville, there's an 1860s farmhouse in southwest Alexander County, Lenny's Mill, and so on. But there's a number that would be eligible for historic preservation grants. This is something that we talked about before, back over 10 years ago. But this time, we're asking you to adopt a preservation ordinance and reactivate the historic committee, and we'll bring recommendations, or if you would make, you board members make recommendations, we'll bring that back for the appointments at our April meeting. That's, unless you have something, there's a lot of pieces to this.
Well, you've heard the information, have the opportunity to read the, what's been given to us. If my understanding is correct, it would be that we would be making a recommendation on an ordinance on the reactivating the committee, identifying some, our sites and applying to the state. And in the absence of this process, we're losing out on quite a few opportunities. Is that correct, Mr. French?
Yes, sir.
So I would certainly entertain a motion to approve the historic preservation ordinance, reassembling the committee, identifying properties, and applying to the state.
I have a question.
Need a motion.
Is this for the consideration to adopt or the actual adoption?
To adopt.
Okay.
So I've got a question. Is, if you have a property that's identified as a historical building, would it come under this ordinance voluntarily? Or, I mean, or is it going to be put under it regardless if you want it or not?
Voluntarily.
Okay. Is there there seem to be interest in the community doing, you know, people serving on this committee or?
Yes.
Yeah,
We had this committee several years ago. There was one, I mean, I remember the people that was on there, and we were trying to draw up some bylaws and all that to the committee at that time, and we couldn't get everybody to meet at the same time.
Mr. French, who's on that committee? Do you know?
There's nobody on it right now.
Nobody?
No.
So
Yeah.
we'd be
We'd be
filling that.
reestablishing that
Okay.
committee.
Yeah, and right now,
We have nobody.
we're having a discussion before we have a motion, so I entertain a motion, then we can discuss at that particular time. Do we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Thought you
We
were
need
going
to-
to
we need
discuss.
to-
Oh, yeah, we need to discuss, you're right. Discussion, now we can talk about it.
One other question then. If this is approved tonight, when does this actually go in effect on properties? If there's no committee in force as of yet? What's
soon
the,
as
what's
you-
the timeline?
As soon as you make the appointments in April, if you make them in April.
Okay.
Will all identified sources will be submitted to the committee, who will then
Yes.
apply the criteria?
There'll be a staff person that'll work with that. That staff person that actually works for economic development right now and has worked with historic properties all over the state. So that's the main thing where we need to get started.
And if someone doesn't want a particular property to be signified as such, then they don't have to.
That's correct. It's voluntary.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve the Historic Preservation Ordinance Committee identification process and applying, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion passes. Unanimous. At this time, Mr. French will share with us county sales tax revenue thus far in 2018-19. Oh, no, budget ordinance, I'm sorry.
Budget amendment number 30 is to increase the governing body budget to contribute $2,500 towards the $5,000 cost of the Independence Celebration fireworks display. In our packet, it says a local business, which is Craftmaster, will contribute the other $2,500. Budget amendment number 31 is to increase the sheriff's budget for estimated towing fees for the remainder of the 2018-2019 budget year. And budget amendment number 32 is the budget for the receipt of non-cash grant multiple event response trailer through a Homeland Security grant project serving the Domestic Preparedness Region 8 of North Carolina and the related cost of title and tag. Number 33 is to increase the DSS budget for additional state funds. That's all. I'd be glad to try to answer any questions on those budget amendments, Mr. Chairman.
And if one does the math, it's a big upside for us without a big deficit for us, so that's all really good. Any questions? Entertain a motion to approve budget ordinance amendments 30 through 33.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve budget ordinance amendments 30 through 33 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion passes.
And number 30 will put us back in the fireworks display business for the 4th of July.
Yes,
I know I had a lot of people last year commenting about that, so we're planning well in advance, so.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, quite a conglomerate effort too with us in the town and Craftmaster and people, so it's a good thing. Now, Mr. French can tell us about sales tax revenues.
The county sales tax, the regular sales tax is running right on target, it's 50%. For 6 months, it's running $2,353,000 out of $4,698,000. We are running 4% ahead of last year, which is a good sign. I wish it was running more, but it's still 4% ahead. The new sales tax is running $761,000, which is 50% for 6 months. We had budgeted $1,521,750, which is a little over 5% increase from the same time last year. So those numbers are encouraging and they're looking up. I wish they were greater, but they are improving. Any questions, gentlemen?
And at this time, Mr. French will share with us county manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packet is some information about a Taylor King sewer line. Staff would like to recommend that this section of sewer line be transferred to the town. The town receives the revenue and maintains the line. This line will be relocated as part of the NCDOT project to realign the intersection of County Home Road. You have that information in your packet. And then if you want to take action on that, then there's just a few other things I want to mention. Or maybe not.
Do I have a motion to move the sewer line? Is that what we're needing?
No, we're transferring the sewer line to the town.
We have a
So they'll
motion.
be financially responsible for it when the road's moved.
Would anyone like to make a motion to give the town a sewer line to,
I'll do it. Mr. Chairman, I move that Alexander County transfer ownership of the county home road sewer line to the town of Taylorsville.
We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes, unanimous. Did you say you had something else?
Yes, sir, just a couple things to mention. Most of you have been contacted that there will be a community vision forum on Thursday, March 21st, starting at 5:30 until 8:30 at McClendon's Restaurant. It's being sponsored by the Taylorsville Business Association in partnership with our Alexander County EDC and Duke Energy. You have contact information if you plan on attending because of the dinner that's going to be included. Also, May the 1st is County Assembly Day, and that's a good opportunity to work on a state level, in a sense like we did when we went to Washington, contacting some of our local folks and talking to them about some of our issues. We'll be getting in touch with you soon about district meetings, but that's all I have at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to add one more thing to that, if I could, please.
Absolutely.
On March the 21st, 2019, at Brushy Mountain Golf Course, the Western Piedmont Council of Government will be holding the meeting for Alexander, Catawba, Caldwell, and Burke, and that meeting will be here. And the Alexander County is a sponsor of that, along with the town of Taylorsville. And I'd really like to see all of our commissioners show up that night if they would, please.
What day?
March the 21st.
That's the same day.
Same night.
Yep, same night. That's pretty sure that's what it was.
I think it's,
I think in the,
I think it's the 26th, I believe.
Am I wrong
I think it's Tuesday.
on mine?
I believe so.
Okay, I stand corrected. I thought it
Yeah,
was.
that's talking about the
Wait
policy
a
board.
minute, wait a minute. Yes, the policy board meeting.
It's March 26th.
March 26th,
It's
okay.
it's Tuesday,
Right,
that
okay.
Tuesday.
But we're one of the major sponsors of that event this year, and I'd like for, if we could, get all our commissioners to show up for that.
What time? 6?
6 o'clock, dinner will be served. Short meeting afterwards, it's usually over by 7:30, 8 o'clock, depending on what type of business they have to go on that night. Thank you, Mr. French.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
everyone's had an opportunity to look at your consent agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda as given.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion on the consent agenda? All in favor, please signify with raising your right hand. Motion passes unanimous. This time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session.
For what?
Per General Statute NCGS 143-318.11A 5 and 6, contractual and personnel. We will reconvene only to adjourn.
I move that we moved into closed session.
Second? All in favor?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you very much.